Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Happy Thursday if you're listening to this on the day it comes out. I hope you're having such a good day. I hope the sun is shining and you're feeling positive and happy and fulfilled with your life. Despite all of the chaos going on in our world. Guess what I'm going to be talking about today? Happiness, right? On the Life and Happiness podcast, that would make sense. So today is all about happiness cliches in particular. There are so many happiness cliches. There are so many things that people say over and over again. And I decided to look behind kind of the science behind a lot of them and dissect them a little bit, because I feel like, especially if someone is having a rough time and we try to console them, we try to comfort them and be there for them, we often go to happiness cliches, and you'll hear a lot of them as I explain them throughout the episode. But I feel like it's such like a go-to thing to say when you don't know what to say, right? Like there's all these cliches that we say to try to make somebody feel better, and I feel like we don't actually fully understand, the science behind it, the meaning behind this cliche. Is it actually helpful to be saying that? Is it not helpful to be saying that? And if they are helpful to be to be said, then of course I'm going to also dive into how to implement these cliches just into your life, and so that you can live your life to the fullest and happiness, because that's exactly what this podcast is all about. So yeah, today I thought I would talk about happiness cliches. You're definitely going to recognize, I would hope, pretty much all of these, or a majority of these that I'm going to be talking about. I'm just hoping from this episode maybe you'll get some different perspective from some of the cliche kind of lines that you say to somebody when you're trying to console them, or maybe something that you say to yourself. And I think it's just really important that we have a good understanding about what these cliches actually mean. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. The first cliche that I want to talk about is the purpose of life is a life of purpose. So basically, the meaning behind this is that you need to find your purpose in life, and then you'll live a happy and full life, right? I'm sure you've heard this a lot. Well, you just have to find your purpose. Or a lot of people that deal with mental health, they feel like they don't have a purpose, like they don't have a meaning to be here. So, of course, when I've talked to people struggling with their mental health, this is definitely the one thing that people crave, finding that purpose in your life, or, what exactly are you supposed to be doing in this chaotic, crazy world? What are you supposed to be doing with your life? Why are you here? And I feel like everybody is constantly searching for their purpose. And it feels good to have a purpose. It feels good to be needed or to do really well at something. But what exactly is a purpose? So, there's things that we watch, listen to, or activities that we do that have an obvious purpose to them. But what does it mean by having a purpose in life, or like finding your purpose? I feel like this is such a broad question. And I think most common purpose that people feel like they have would be their career. Like, for example, if you are a doctor, you're like, I'm meant to be a doctor, and I'm meant to save lives. That's my purpose. First of all, awesome purpose. That is, yes, save lives if you have the capability to save lives. But not everybody can just, pick a career and say, that is my purpose. And I'm not saying that your career is necessarily always going to be your purpose, but I feel like that is the most common thing that people go to. I am meant to be a doctor and to save lives. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Often, like, your purpose is something that you've studied, or maybe that you consider that you're a master at. Maybe you feel like your purpose is to help make this planet, like, a greener place. So it's not really, like, your career, but maybe you dedicate, like, all your spare time to taking care of the environment and, like, trying to just make the world greener. Maybe that's your purpose, that you want to make sure that you're leaving such a good impact on the environment. So I guess we could define a purpose, or your purpose in life, as something that, is motivated by your goals. So if you are super goal oriented to save lives and be a doctor, well, then that's your purpose. If you're super motivated to make the world a greener place, well, then maybe that's your purpose, right? So when you feel like you have a purpose in life, you feel like you have a meaning. Like, what you do, your life, yourself as a person is just meaningful in general. So everyone wants to feel useful. Everyone wants to feel important and meaningful. Like, that is such a good feeling, of course. When somebody needs you, or when you feel like you are needed on this planet. Like, of course, that is such a good feeling. And it's an important feeling to have. Everybody wants to feel needed, or wants to feel useful, or like they have a meaning. So when you feel like you are worth something, then that means that you're going to probably also want to be taking better care of yourself, because you strongly believe, I am supposed to be here, I have a meaning. So then you think about, okay, I got to take care of myself so I can keep saving lives, or I can keep making an impact in the environment. Because, you truly find a reason to be alive, and when you feel like you have a meaning. And that alone, I think, is just so amazing, because not everybody gets to feel that way. Not everybody, feels like they have a purpose. And a lot of people search for so long thinking that they don't have a purpose. Like, they're not meant to be here. And I think that is the root of so many mental health problems, is that people just feel like they don't belong. Like, they're not worth anything, right? When you're struggling with your mental health, you feel worthless. Like, there's just no point of living sometimes, right? So when you have a purpose, it 100% gives you that meaning, that reason to be here, that reason to get out of bed every single morning, because you got to get up and save lives, or you got to get up and make the environment a greener place. You have a reason to get out of bed and to live your life. Okay, so these are all these great things that I think this cliche brings. So what's wrong with this cliche? Well, most people feel like they have to have a purpose to have any meaning at all, or to be happy in general, but I do not believe that that is true. This is where it goes wrong. You can be happy without finding your so-called true purpose or meaning of life. Maybe you're searching for your purpose or your meaning, or that career, that spark inside of you that makes you feel like you are so useful and you are so meaningful and you are so worth it, which is awesome. But you can't forget to feel good and feel proud of yourself and find happiness within yourself when you're trying to find that purpose still, when you're experiencing life itself, right? You're here for a reason. No matter what, whether you have this higher purpose of saving lives or making the planet a greener place, you have a purpose to be here. You have friends and family that love you. Maybe your purpose is just to, like, can you imagine leaving your family and friends and, like, those people need you. Maybe that's your purpose, or that's part of your purpose. And so I think that we look at the purpose of my life as this, like, one big giant thing, like becoming a doctor. But it doesn't have to be that. Your purpose can mean so many different little things, and you can be happy while you're still searching for maybe that large purpose in life. And you can find little purposes and little reasons to be happy that you're alive, and that, to make yourself feel worthy and to feel like you are meaningful. Family, friends, basically all I'm saying is that you don't need to be set in your career or set in your passion or whatever to be happy and successful. Your purpose can and will change throughout your life as well. Like I said, there's so many, like, many purposes, many reasons why we are here on this planet. And you are too. You are worth it. You are supposed to be here, even though if you haven't found your so-called higher purpose. You are meant to be here. So I just think we have to stop stressing about finding a purpose, because if we just stress and think, okay, once I find my purpose, I'll be happy. No, you have to find the happiness within yourself, not this final destination of your so-called purpose. So happiness starts within, and it is all a part of this journey, right? So this is where I think the cliche goes wrong, because I don't think you necessarily have to have a purpose to be happy or to be living a full life. It definitely helps you feel good inside. It helps you build confidence and just feel good about yourself. And that's amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But you have to also learn how to find your mini purposes and your other ways that you feel meaningful into this world. Okay, well that was number 1 cliche of the day. I hope you enjoyed the first one. I have a few more to share with you, more that you're going to recognize, including near the end of the episode, I will share the most common happiness cliche. Can you guess what it is? I will leave you wondering because it's time for a little bit of a break. But when we get back, you know it. I'm jumping right back into some more cliches. Let's dissect them. Let's find the science behind them. Let's find the meaning. Let's find the positives and the negatives and how we can implement them into our lives. So stay tuned. I will be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So today I am talking all about happiness. How cliche in a life and happiness podcast. Sorry, I had to. Okay, so today is seriously about happiness cliches. We're dissecting them. We're finding the science behind them. We're finding out the positive, the negatives, and how to implement these things into your life so you can live your life to the happiest and the fullest, because that is exactly what I'm here to share information with you about. So number dos of my cliches is do one thing a day that scares you. Okay, I'm sure you've heard this one before, and personally, this is one of my favorite cliches of all time. So maybe I'm a little bit biased to this one. I'm just going to say that disclaimer to begin with. So the meaning behind this cliche means basically avoidance. Face your fears. Go after it. Do something that's outside of your comfort zone every single day. And you guys already know how I feel about being pushed outside your comfort zone. That's where we grow. That's where beautiful things happen, is outside of your comfort zone. So yes, that's maybe why I love this cliche. So basically, avoidance is in our life no matter what. Whether you are avoiding, your emotions, maybe you're feeling sad and you don't want to deal with your emotions, so you avoid them, you push them down, you bottle things up. Basically we just decide that we just don't feel like dealing with our emotions or our feelings, and we just kind of avoid them. And maybe we do stuff that distracts us. And this is where, different addictions, I think, come in. Not just like substance abuse and stuff while we're trying to avoid our emotions, but, sometimes we get into unhealthy habits when we're trying to avoid our emotions. I think one of the most common ones is emotional eating. So you're feeling so emotional, you don't really want to deal with them, so you grab food. And this is so common for so many people, and you might not even realize that that is why you are eating or that time and stuff, but it's probably because, say you had a really emotional day, you're feeling really sad, and then, in that evening, you just get the munchies. You're so hungry, and you stuff your face with so many things, and it's just like, everyone has done it. Everyone has been there. It happens. But this is a way that we try to avoid our emotions. So basically, this cliche is saying that you can't stay in your comfort zone, and we need to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So we can't, avoid our fears. We can't avoid activities, people. Definitely cannot avoid our mental health. So your emotions, your thoughts, your patterns, the way that you are feeling, the way that you process things. We avoid these, like I said, emotional eating, substance abuse. Maybe you have just an unhealthy habit. Maybe you have a healthy habit. Maybe for me, this is my avoidance of my emotions, is I work out, I go for a run. Helps me deal with my emotions, but at the same time, it might be a little bit of me trying to avoid them. Even though I do feel better afterwards and I try to work through my stuff while I'm working out, it's still kind of my concept of, okay, I'll just go to the gym for an hour and I'll feel better. And instead of, really trying to sit down and reflect about the way that I'm feeling, that's kind of my avoidance. So we all have an avoidance, whether it's eating, it's working out, it's a substance abuse, it could be anything. But avoiding is not going to get you anywhere, and we all have to deal with the things that scare us. So literally when I'm saying, do one thing a day that scares you, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily jumping out of an airplane because you're scared of, going skydiving, you're scared of heights. It doesn't have to be something like that. It can be something as you are scared to deal with your emotions. So when you feel sad, instead of avoiding them, doing you're going for your runs like I do, or eating or something like that. Instead, you are facing your fear by sitting down, doing some self-reflection, and actually looking inwards to yourself instead of looking outwards. So the thing that scares you, it doesn't have to be, so big. And I feel like people take that, this cliche wrong in that way. I have to face a fear every single day. Do I have to hold a spider? Do I have to jump out of an airplane? Do I have to go bungee jumping? All these different things, right? But no, these can be little things that scare you. Maybe you don't like to, you're not a very outgoing person. You're just a little bit more of an introvert. You don't like to talk to people too much. Maybe the one thing that you do a day is say hi to a stranger, or tell somebody a compliment. Or maybe, the one thing that scares you is complimenting yourself, feeling good about yourself. So it can be all these little things that scare you. And this cliche, I am going to stand behind. I am going to 100% stand behind it, because I don't think there's anything wrong with this cliche. I think we strongly need to do something every single day that scares us. I think we need to be pushed outside of our comfort zones, and we need to challenge ourselves emotionally, physically, mentally. We need to challenge ourselves. And the only way we'll challenge ourselves is by facing our fears. Little to big fears, it doesn't matter. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone and truly believe in yourself for it, because you will feel so good once you do it, once you break those avoidance habits and you just let yourself face your fear and you feel accomplished and proud of yourself. And it might be scary and you might never want to do it again, but you're going to have to do it again, and you got to keep facing your fears and keep doing it over and over and over again. In the last episode, I talked about facing your fears a little bit. I talked about the exposure technique. I also talked about directly just facing your fear about entering a new chapter into your life. That can just be scary alone. So if you want to find out some more information about fear, definitely check out the last episode. I have a bunch of information on it. But this second cliche, I'm going to stand behind 100%. I strongly believe in it. So I hope you do too. Push yourself outside your comfort zone. It is worth it. All right. Number 3, live every day as if it were your last. Okay. Sure, you've heard this one before as well. So basically the meaning behind this cliche is that timing is scarce and we have to live every single day to the fullest. You've also probably heard me say that so many times that I'm turning into a cliche. So there was a 2018 study that was randomly assigned to participants to pretend that it was their last month in their current city, or basically to live as they usually did. So what were the results? Basically, those that were in the group that were pretending to move in a month, they reported doing more activities and feeling greater connectedness and well-being in general. So just an overall healthier mindset. You did more activities, took the time to do things. And I feel like we always let time slip away from us, you know? So think about it. If it's your last day of your vacation, what are you going to do on your last day of vacation? Are you going to sleep in till the afternoon and like miss half the day? No, you're going to wake up early. You're going to go down to the beach and you're going to make the most of that last 24 hours that you have on your vacation. Every single time, right? Or think about, you know, when you go visit family or friends or you're away for the weekend or anything like that, you know that you only have a couple days. What are you going to do? You're going to make the most out of it. You're going to plan your weekend. You're going to, you know, do a list. You're going to, okay, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this because you want to make the most of your time because you understand that your time is short. And so this is, you know, it's a great mindset because you're going after the things that you want, especially this can mean going after your dreams and not wasting your time, and you're making the most of every single day because it's true, like time is scarce and life is short. So what is the problem with this cliche? Well, I look at this cliche and I see the only problem is that the pressure that you have to live this full, busy life every single day to make it worthwhile. You know, you have to, like, we see busy as like success very often, right? And so I just don't think we should waste our time, definitely, of course, but we also shouldn't put the pressure on ourselves to overload our schedule with a million different things, trying to cram everything in. Time is scarce, but we have to use it appropriately as well. And so if we're jamming our schedule packed with things, we might just cause ourselves more stress or more unhealthy habits or anything like that. So you have to understand that it's okay to have bad days where you don't feel like doing anything, or lazy days when you don't feel like doing anything. You don't have to do much every single day. Life can be very stressful, and we don't have to be happy 24/7. We aren't supposed to be happy 24/7. So we have so many emotions that we have to let ourselves feel on a day-to-day basis. And so if you wake up one day and you're feeling crappy and you want to let yourself feel crappy for a day, there is nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with letting yourself feel the way you feel and maybe having an off day. Because if you just try to, you know, jam pack your schedule and stress yourself out more, it's just going to get down this rabbit hole. And that's when a lot of mental health problems happen and a lot of just things that aren't necessarily happen in our life. So, but of course, with that being said too, like, you know, you have to know yourself. You have to know your timing. And if you wake up one day, you feel crappy and you just want to stay in bed, I say all to it. But if you're doing that, you know, for a week straight, maybe you're wasting your time a little bit and you need to live every day as if it were your last. I think too, behind this cliche, it really just means to, you know, be grateful for everything that you have, show gratitude to your family and friends and your loved ones around you, and live every single day as if you're last, as if, you know, just be grateful for your life and hold your loved ones close and be kind, because we don't know when our last day is going to be. So, you know, take that meaning behind it. If that's going to make you feel better, just be grateful for your life. So live every single day as if it's your last. Tell your loved ones you love them every single day because you never know what's going to happen. All right, it is time for a little bit of a break again, but don't go anywhere because I haven't quite yet shared the most common cliche that you hear all the time. Have you guessed what it is yet? If you have some guesses, hold them in because after the break, I will be sharing 2 more, including the most common cliche, in my opinion. I'm going to dissect it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to really give a meaning behind it. So stay tuned. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. We are in the last stretch of today's episode, and of course, I am talking all about happiness cliches. If for some reason you're just tuning in now, well, that's what we're talking about today, happiness cliches, and I'm dissecting them. We're talking about the positive, the negatives, how to implement them in your life, what's wrong with the cliche, what's right about the cliche, what's the meaning behind it, and I have two left to share with you. So my next one to share is discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Okay, so this is another cliche, and the meaning behind it is basically have control of your life, organize your life, and you have to have discipline. Like, you have to be able to discipline yourself to reach your goals. So that's basically what this means. So basically you have to have self-control to resist that McDonald's burger or to stay studying for school. That means you got to resist your cell phone or talking to others or any other kind of distraction in your life. So it's all about, temptation, right? And so we talk about self-control, and that just means, we're resisting temptation. So, and of course, resisting temptation is very important because there are so many different things that can distract us and that can cause us to fall off track. So I think discipline is important, and I think it does somewhat bridge our way to, goals and accomplishment, because if you have no discipline at all, you are going to fall off track a little bit, right? So if you're goal-oriented, you're focused, you're staying on track, yes, discipline is definitely involved. There's no questions asked about that. Eventually, though, if you discipline yourself so strongly, consistently, all the time, you're super hard on yourself about it, eventually you are going to break down and you're going to break into whatever you're trying to resist. And then that kind of might lead you down a rabbit hole as well. So what's wrong with this cliche? Well, because discipline, I think there's a fine line behind it. When we focus so hard on the things that we cannot do, especially the things that we focus sometimes on the things that we cannot control instead of the things we can control, and we try to discipline ourselves on the things that we cannot control, and that's never going to work, and that's never going to lead you down the right track. So, and when we are only focusing on these things, or we're just so strict with discipline, we end up missing so many beautiful parts of life. If you're so strict, you will absolutely not eat any type of fast food whatsoever. You will not eat anything at all, ever, 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 ever. Well, you might miss out on some really great things, because fast food can be really great. Or maybe all your friends are going out on the weekend and they're going to grab fast food and you don't want to go because you just absolutely resist. But now you missed out on a good time with your friends. So I think there's always a time and place for discipline. So I think it definitely does bridge your way to your goals in a sense, but you have to be able to understand yourself and your own discipline. And when we cloud our brain with telling ourselves no, no, no all the time, it just doesn't really leave room for much else. And this is why we miss out on things and we don't allow ourselves to do things. And then I think we start to resent ourselves, and we don't realize that we're resenting ourselves, but we do, because we're just saying no constantly, and we're not letting ourselves enjoy that McDonald's burger once in a while. Or, you're not letting yourself check your cell phone for 2 days in a row because you just need to focus. Like, we have to find this fine line between discipline and too much discipline. So how do we bring this cliche into our life in a healthy way? Well, instead of constantly telling yourself no and resisting until your breaking point or till you resent yourself, try the method of effortless self-control. So basically this is you set up your life, you organize your life so you have less temptation. So putting your cell phone in a drawer or in a different room, or just turning it off and putting it somewhere else when you're trying to work. This way, there's literally no temptation there. There's no discipline. There's no nothing. It's just completely in a different room. And that's it. It's gone. You don't have that temptation sitting there in front of you. Or go to a restaurant with all healthy food, instead of somewhere like McDonald's where you won't find something that's healthy. If you're on your diet and you're trying to, resist junk food and fast food, well then don't go to somewhere that has a bunch of junk food on the menu. This is just kind of basically eliminating that option. It's eliminating the temptation. So you just have to organize your life with the least temptations as possible. Don't let yourself have temptations. And I think this is all about your environment and the way where you place yourself in your life. And so it's like exactly like going to McDonald's or going somewhere else that is all healthy. Like that's your environment that's around you, right? And so if you go somewhere that's the menu is all healthy, well, that's all you got. Those are your options. But if you go to McDonald's trying to find something that's super healthy for you, not the easiest thing to do. It's way easier to just give in to those temptations. All right. And my last cliche for you, the most common of it all, is don't worry, be happy. I hope you guessed that. If you didn't, I'm super curious what other cliche that you would have guessed. Leave it in the review or go on our social media and shoot me a comment because I'm super, super curious what people thought was the most common cliche. Because in my mind, don't worry, be happy is the most common cliche. So what does this cliche really mean? Well, it means don't worry, be happy. I feel like this one's pretty straightforward. It means basically be carefree, be happy, don't stress about things, live your life to the happiest, the fullest that you can all of the time. And, you know, I think that we've evolved from this kind of mindset. I feel like we're now, it's more talked about to let yourself feel your emotions and to let yourself have down days, because this is what bugs me about this cliche the most, is that, you know, this means that you have to be happy all the time. And you don't have to be happy all the time. And it's impossible to be happy all the time, 24/7, every single day of your life. Life just doesn't work like that. And it's not supposed to work like that. The more that we let ourselves feel our emotions, the better that we get to know ourselves and we get to know the world. We get to understand things. We get to experience different things. Can you imagine just constantly being happy all the time? I feel like you also miss out on things, right? Because there's experiences and life happens and you're just not supposed to be happy 24/7 because it doesn't make sense. So that's why this cliche bugs me, because it's don't worry, be happy, which it's a positive line. It is a positive cliche. Don't get me wrong. I definitely agree. Don't worry as much as you can, but it's also important to understand that you can have down days and you will have down days and you should let yourself feel those down days. And it's normal and it's healthy. And I think we need to normalize really talking about that even more. Like I said, we have definitely evolved from you're not allowed to be sad at all to, yeah, let's talk about our emotions. But there is still that, you know, I feel like this is the most common thing when someone's going through a hard time and we try to console them and we say, well, just don't worry about it. Be happy. Look on the positive side. Yeah, not always the easiest thing to do when you feel like you have a dark cloud hovering over top of your head. It is not the easiest thing to just not worry and just be happy. Like, this one to me just doesn't, there's just no, you know, there's just no huge meaning behind it, I think. Like, I feel like with all these other cliches, like, let's see, live every day as if it were your last. I feel like there's so much more meaning behind that. It's, you know, that's a good advice to give somebody that's having a rough day. Live today as if it's your last. You know, don't, you know, try not to dwell on this because this might be your last day. You know, I feel like that's a better thing to say than just look on the positive side. It's a different way of saying it, but I feel like it's a more understanding and in-depth way of just saying, hey, let's not worry. Let's be happy. Let's live today like it's our last. Like, let's go for it. You know, let's try to look on the positive side because this could be your last day. And I think it's just a different perspective of the way to look at it. But don't worry, be happy. It's always going to be around. And I definitely think the surface meaning of it is a positive thing. It's just when we try to console somebody or comfort somebody, this cliche, I just don't think is the most helpful line to say to somebody. But with that being said, don't worry, be happy because it's true. Life is short. You got to live every single day like it's your last. You got to have self-control because it's going to bridge your way between your goals and your accomplishments. You do one thing a day that scares you because going outside of your comfort zone is exciting and you'll learn things and you'll experience new things. And through these experiences and living every day like it's your last, you can stumble upon your purpose. But living every day like it's your last is a purpose in itself, and there's so many other purposes. So all these cliches tie together. Basically, it means let's be happy. Let's try to live our life to the fullest. But what I want to just say is that we have to let ourselves feel our emotions, and it's normal to feel sad. It's normal to feel upset. It's normal to be angry sometimes. It's normal to have off days and not want to do anything. And it is okay to do that. And those things don't define you. I think what defines you is being able to pick yourself back up, listen to Don't Worry, Be Happy, and get on with your day. Turn it to a positive outlook, pick yourself back up, and just keep going. Find that self-control, find that discipline within yourself to turn on the radio, listen to Don't Worry, Be Happy, and move on with your day. Do something that scares you. All these just tie in together. All right, well, those are the 5 top happiness cliches I thought I would share with you today. I hope you enjoyed my little dissection of all these cliches. Hope you learned some new things, got maybe some new perspectives, and maybe just learned some new ways that you can help comfort or console a friend that's going through a hard time. We're not all therapists, and we're not supposed to be our friends or family therapists all the time, but sometimes we do get put in a position where we just want to help them. And I feel like these are cliches that we try to say to people to help them. And so I think it's so, so important that we understand these and maybe what's wrong with them and what's right with them and how we can implement those into your life. So I really hope that that's what you got out of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. In case you forgot, I am here all the time to share so much information with you about living your happy and fullest life. So please do not forget to hit that subscribe button so that you are notified when there are new episodes out, Mondays and Thursdays. As well, please do not forget to head over to our social media, like and follow us. I update those regularly. I give you little teasers of episodes that are coming out. I talk to you. I chat. Go chat with me on social media. I would love to hear from you, as well as leave a 5-star review because it helps out a ton and it makes my day reading these reviews. All right. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay positive, and don't worry, be happy. Till next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.